Good afternoon. We are at the lovely Napa Valley Cardiology Conference. This is our, should be 13th, but actually 11th conference that we've done here. We lost 2 years in our COVID pandemic crisis last year. We're sitting here with Drs. Dipti Itchaporia and Hadley Wilson. Dipti is immediate past president of National American College of Cardiology, and Hadley is vice president. We'll assume that seat in, I guess, a year or at next meeting in 2023. One of the things we were going to just discuss briefly is the educational content coming out of this meeting. It was struck, I think all of us, our great speakers have been giving us guideline-directed therapies, changes in the latest advances across a spectrum of cardiovascular subjects and disciplines, and really just want to discuss the role of the college, the American College, in disseminating this information. One of the biggest challenges we have, as we've learned over the last 2 days here, late-breaking clinical trials have been reported, clinical practice is changing in front of our eyes, but how do we get it to the clinicians? How do we get it to the hands of the doctors taking care of our patients so that actually these therapies, these novel therapies and changes in the way we practice medicine are actually implemented into the bedside? I know that the college, as one of its fundamental missions, is education. So just wanted to pick y'all's brains on how do we get this granular information coming out of these lectures, these subjects, and actually get it into the practice of our cardiovascular docs?
No, I think it's a great question. As you said, one of the primary missions of the college is education, right? It's one of the pillars of the college. And so we have done a really great job of producing clinical guidelines, and we all know what guidelines are and how to do that. But what you're asking is something different. It's about clinical guidance. What do I do at the bedside? How do I translate the guidelines into what do I do at point of care? And actually the college has been a trendsetter when it comes to clinical guidance. And so we have expert consensus documents that will tell you what you do for a patient at the time that may not necessarily fit the profile in a guideline. We also have tools such as apps and other devices. So we have a whole cadre of clinical guidance that can help with what you're saying.
Right.
And I think it's really important that meetings like this, as we reemerge from the pandemic, are able to get that smaller group together, although still quite sizable, and we can actually interact with the speakers, the experts, talk about the guidelines, discuss controversies, and we can really learn from that. And I think it's also important that we know that the membership is changing around the world. It used to be that it was a great thing to be at these massive meetings, but now we know through the pandemic, number one, they were shut down for 2 years, and number two is that the younger members are actually preferring smaller meetings where they can have this interaction, as well as when these meetings are recorded, that they can go online, perhaps in the comfort of their home, and look at this on their laptop at night after work or at their convenience, because that's more the way they roll. And that's a great way for us to disseminate that information and repetitively get that out there into our cardiovascular team.
Can I add on? I agree with Hadley about the way that things are changing. So the idea of being able to access information at home, having smaller meetings like this one where you have the interaction is really helpful. So I think highlighting the idea that now that we're feeling more comfortable coming to meetings, that meetings like this are just really helpful. So, regional meetings, local meetings, they're really helpful. So we can't highlight the importance of meetings. And the college believes that. The scientific session, as you know, we're in person. We also have our international meetings to get our international colleagues on board. I was chair of the Middle East Conference. Hadley's been part of the Latin America Conference. And so we have regional conferences that help. So I think these types of meetings are really helpful in helping translate that information.
Yeah. Getting it through, making sure that we're teaching, lecturing based on what is the appropriate guidance that comes out of the college, I think is the number one thing, number one asset of the college. and then taking it back to local institutions. I mean, Piedmont is a statewide healthcare system, but it's still a local institution. It influences the market in the southeast and in the Georgia market, bringing this information out of these meetings and then allowing us to put it on our websites, put it in our educational forums so that it's brought out to the practitioners, I think is really the nice complement between the national ACC and what happens on a local level.
Exactly. And as we know, the guidelines, the late-breaking clinical trials, and so forth came out at the larger meetings like the ACC 22 scientific sessions. But this has been a great forum where we can actually discuss the guidelines, and the experts can, actually have their concerns about different class indications changing over time, and what was the reason for that, and what do we look for in the future. So to actually go to your first question, which is taking these guidelines now and actually discussing these in a clinical forum so that our clinicians can know how to take those back and implement them.
Well, it's a great, I've recently been exposed, and a new member of the Lifelong Learning Committee of the college, been exposed to a lot of stuff I never knew what was going on in the work that's going on behind the scenes, which is really quite exciting. So it's a great hidden jewel, if you would, of the college, and it's nice to be able to take advantage of it to disseminate this information. So thank you for joining us, and get on the ACC website, also get on the Marcus Heart and Vascular website, and keep learning. Thank you both.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Dr. Brown.
All right.